Hey Rebel Rouser, I'm Alan Voivod and this is Star Wars 7 by 7 So, the fandom was rocked by a report that came from Collider claiming that sources with knowledge of the situation, always a squirrely little situation, have said that plans for future standalone Star Wars movies, aka the A Star Wars Story branded movies, have been put on hold, and that this may have something to do with the performance of Solo, A Star Wars Story at the box office. Additionally, one of the things that Collider said about this was that the people who were working on the Obi-Wan Kenobi movie, so this is something that has been rumored, and at one point Stephen Daldry was linked to the project potentially as a director who might be involved or who might be being encouraged to be involved, if you will, that whoever was working on the active development of an Obi-Wan movie project is now no longer involved with it. Now, by extension, this leaves out anything to do with Rian Johnson's announced trilogy of movies and the series of movies that are being produced by the Game of Thrones guys. And so that, of course, raises a question or two for consideration, which is, well, if these are not A Star Wars Story movies that they're doing, then I wonder how they're going to brand those. But, you know, that's something for another time because those are way down the pike at this rate. Anyway, so the curious thing about this also is that Anthony Breznican of Entertainment Weekly has been curiously silent about this. There's been no report as of the time I'm recording this on Entertainment Weekly about this rumor one way or the other. And also Amy Ratcliffe for Nerdist is in the midst of doing a thing for Nerdist at the new Pixar Toy Story thing happening in Disney World or Disneyland. Now, I'm not sure which. I didn't watch it too closely, to be perfectly honest with you. I just know that she has not filed anything about this yet either. So that in itself might be an indication that it's kind of a non-story. But then we get the other unconfirmed sources report that came actually straight from ABC News. Of course, ABC News being part of the parent company Disney, and that report claims that nope, all these rumors are inaccurate. Clayton Sandell is the person behind this report via Good Morning America, and he says that Lucasfilm is telling ABC that multiple projects are moving ahead that have not yet been announced, and that these are entirely separate from the Rian Johnson and the Game of Thrones guys things. So for some additional insight on this, we need look no further than Star Wars Newsnet and Making Star Wars. If you're not familiar with those two outlets, they deal in leaks and rumors and spoilers. They have sources cultivated that are able to dig up information on films in pre-production and production and get information out that is startlingly accurate. And so, you know, that falls into spoiler territory kind of things. And we generally don't get too much into that on the podcast here. But be that as it may, it seems like it's worth considering what they have to say on this one because it's not rumory, spoilery per se. And this is what we find out. Star Wars Newsnet is hearing not much more from their sources, just that a source that they had that was an independent contractor working with Disney and Lucasfilm had a project canceled, and so that suggested that more of the standalone story work was being shelved. But Making Star Wars had a deeper report from sources at Pinewood Studios where they say there had been studio time assigned to Star Wars that was relinquished, and that it may have actually had to do with a potential movie based around Mos Eisley Spaceport, that there was going to be something that they said, well, for lack of a better situation, we'll give it a working title, Mos Eisley Spaceport, A Star Wars Story, okay? Not that that was the actual title, but at least conceptually, that's what you're supposed to think about it. That this was an utterly and completely unannounced movie that may have been scheduled for studio time and was ultimately canceled for one reason or another. And so this led to rumors that all the standalone movies were being canceled, and that does not seem to be actually the case. And so the Making Star Wars version of events gets bolstered by the ABC News reporting, and suddenly it seems like it is much ado about nothing. So there you go. It turns out that maybe there isn't much to this rumor after all. But the one thing that still seems a little bit up in the air is the part of the Collider report that talked about people involved with an Obi-Wan movie not being involved anymore, and the fact that Making Star Wars is saying that anybody working on a Kenobi movie that this is not affected at all. So there has to be some sort of reconciling between the two from a rumor mill perspective, and we haven't gotten that yet. But if something develops, then we will absolutely let you know right here on Star Wars 7x7. And that is going to do it for today's episode. Over on the audio version at sw7x7.com/iTunes or wherever you like to listen to podcasts, you can hear Last Jedi trivia. But for now, it just remains for me to say thank you so much for watching, and may the Force be with you wherever in the world you may be.